romping. Boogie. You see the drummer stomping. Drum boogie, drum boogie. Put the blame on me, boy. Put the blame on me. It's a most unusual day. Getting to know you, getting to know all about you.
See the baby wrapped in the manger on Christmas morning.
The most glorious, glamorous, beautiful girl in the
Seeing you in summer, I never would go. The unreachable star.
I've got rhythm, I've got music. I got my man who could ask for anything more.
What can I tell? My feelings bring you about. Say, can't you see?
Wasn't that wonderful? I'm Steve Hayes, the tired old queen at the movies. And one of the things that all of those films have in common is they were all dubbed. And what we're going to talk about today is the history of dubbing in the movies. And I just happen to have the absolute expert on the subject with us, my dear friend and film historian and dubbing expert extraordinaire, Mr. Mark Milano.
Hey, Steve. Great to be here with you again. We did this show live back in the olden days when you could actually do things live.
As opposed
it's great to have like now a video record of this that people can see, because I run a YouTube channel dedicated to dubbing. It's called Lost Vocals. And I get the same questions over and over and over again. So hopefully this is going to set the record straight on some of the dubbing controversies that have happened over the year.
Oh,
and
I'm so excited because on my YouTube show, Tired Old Queen at the Movies, whenever I do a musical, I always get asked the question, did they do their own singing? So this is really going to be a wonderful eye-opener for everybody out there.
Yeah, there's some really surprising stories about dubbing. I picked some of the highlights for today. But I'm doubly excited that not only do I have the fabulous tired old queen at the movies, Stephen Hayes, we also have the fabulous is the only word, Charles Busch, writer, director, actor, visionary. So Charles, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you have asked me a lot of questions about dubbing yourself, so I think this is an area that interests you too, right?
Yes, it does. Although I'm a little touchy, the fact that I was wondering if I was on this show because I'm a tired old queen who has been dubbed. And I bitterly resent this, Mark.
I don't think you ever
watch it.
You may have lip synced, but you've never been dubbed, I don't think, have you?
Dubbed. I've been dubbed.
Really?
Yes, in Die Mommy Die, in the film of Die Mommy Die, Ruth Williamson dubbed me
Ruth
in.
Williamson.
Yeah, no, originally, I played this songstress, Angela Arden,
Right.
in the who's supposed to be this great singer.
Right.
Before I became a cabaret artiste myself, but so they found the voice. They chose this very girly sounding, woman to sing, and I said it doesn't remotely sound like that would come out of me, or the character, and it should be a kind of really neurotic Garland kind of sound, and I recommended my friend Ruth Williamson, who's done many Broadway shows, and she redubbed it, and she's marvelous. But I'm just the worst lip syncer in the world. And people compliment me and sometimes say, I just loved the movie, how you were just slightly off. That must have been so difficult to do. I was, oh yes. It was a challenge. Slightly off. I respect how the stars who really were so skillful at it.
There is really a range of lip syncing abilities because, as we'll see in the next clip, almost all musicals are done to playback, where even if the star is singing for themselves, they're actually singing to a record made weeks earlier. And I think the master lip syncer was Judy Garland. I've watched her clips and she is absolutely precise. And then you go to someone like Cab Calloway, who is trying to lip sync scat singing, which is virtually impossible. How do you lip sync scat singing? So he's really terrible. There have been some other really bad lip syncers too. So you're in some great company. Did you ever record the song yourself or not?
No, but I was a little nervous when I started performing in cabaret and doing my own singing. I was afraid somebody would start booing. That's not the voice that we loved.
Like Singing in the Rain.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to start. So, by the way, I want to tell you the point of this whole exercise is to reveal the actual voices of stars who were dubbed.
Oh,
so we can hear how bad were they, how good were they, should they have been dubbed, what would have happened if their own voice had been used. So I'm going to be showing you the actual voice of people like Charles Busch who were dubbed. I would love to get your actual vocal track, Charles, and I could restore it to the film and we could see how you sound.
Manfill at MGM. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I do want to say, by the way, that it has taken me years of finagling to get these tracks because a lot of them are in the hands of private collectors, have never been released before. And I had to beg and plead for years to get some of these tracks. So you're going to be seeing a lot of things today that have never been commercially released before. They're on my YouTube channel, but nowhere else. The first clip is from Singing in the Rain, and I used it because it's a great, very accurate portrayal of how playback and dubbing is actually done in movies. Singing in the Rain was technically very accurate. So we're going to show this, which will show you the process of how playback, whether it's being done for dubbing or whether it's being done for a person singing to their own playback, is done, okay?
He holds her in his arms. Would you? He tells her of her charms. Would you? They met as you and I, and they were only friends. But before the story ends, he'll kiss her with a sigh. Would you? And if the girl were I, would you? And would you dare to say, let's do the same as they
But a lot of people think they've seen that before, and actually they haven't, because what you were hearing in that clip is you were hearing Debbie Reynolds sing it herself. And the wonderful thing was that in a movie that was all about dubbing, Debbie Reynolds herself was dubbed in that song. Arthur Freed did not like her voice, did not feel that her voice looked right coming out of Gene Hagen's mouth, that it wasn't mature enough. So he actually brought in Betty Noyes to replace Debbie Reynolds' voice in that scene. And most people don't know that. So let me show you what it sounded like in the final film with Betty Noyes dubbing Debbie Reynolds, dubbing Gene Hagen, okay?
Before was Debbie Reynolds.
You heard Debbie Reynolds there. Now you're gonna hear Betty Noyes.
And would you dare to say, let's do the same as they?
Perfect. That Selden girl is great. As soon as the picture is released, I'm going to give her a big build-up.
Swell.
Now, of course, there's one thing in that clip that is not historically accurate, and that's the idea that they would have given a big build-up to the dubber. Because, of course, that never happened. I'm curious, Charles, did your dubber get a credit at the end of the film?
I believe a special thank you.
That's it.
Like Mercedes McCambridge in The Exorcist? Is this what happened?
Let that
Yeah,
day, people think that I was singing my own songs.
Mercedes took him to court for that, to get credit, and
I know she
because
did.
the initial release didn't credit her, which is shocking. But yeah, generally dubbers were at pain of death or pain of end of career were told you could never talk about this. There were a couple of exceptions. Giorgio Tozzi was credited in the beginning of South Pacific. I don't recall the exact credit, but it's something like vocals by, and he's given credit.
And
Nobody
James
else?
Coleman was given credit at the beginning of With a Song in My Heart because Susan Hayward mouthed all of her songs.
Right. But there is one more great story about Singing in the Rain. And let me play you a scene of Debbie Reynolds once again dubbing Lena Lamont in Singing in the Rain. And this is a dialogue replacement where you go in after the fact and you replace a line that was already recorded.
All set in there?
Right.
Nothing can keep us apart. Our love will last till the stars turn cold.
All right, Kathy, go ahead.
Nothing can keep us apart. Our love will last till the stars turn cold.
That's great, perfect. Cut.
But the fascinating thing is, once again, that is not Debbie dubbing Lena Lamont's voice. It didn't work. Arthur Freed said her Midwestern twang was awful. And so the voice you hear dubbing Lena Lamont is Gene Hagen herself. Dubbing
Charles,
herself.
there's your answer. You got to dub yourself.
So I think that's great that it's Gene Hagen dubbing Debbie Reynolds, dubbing Gene Hagen. Just wonderful. Now, Debbie does sing in the film. She sings Good Morning, and she sings Singing in the Rain at the end, but she is dubbed in Would You, and she is dubbed at the end, You Are My Lucky Star. That's also Betty Noyes again. So that's a case of her singing some of it, but not all of it. Biggest Smile in Hollywood, I think. Broadway
Yes.
melody of 1936. Have either of you seen this?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I love Eleanor Powell. I'm a big fan of hers. I thought she was just astonishing to watch.
The funny thing about Eleanor Powell is that she was a Broadway singer before her film career, and she actually recorded with Tommy Dorsey before she went to Hollywood. And yet, Louis B. Mayer insisted that she be dubbed in all her films because Mayer liked that operatic Catherine Grayson, Jane Powell voice, right? He really, you can see how many times he throws Jose Turby in these movies, right? This classical thing that he has, rather than the pop voices that should have been featured. So he insisted that Eleanor Powell be dubbed in all her films. But I went back and I found her recording of this song from that movie with Tommy Dorsey. Now, of course, they didn't match at all. So I had to go through and make like 100 cuts in this and then speed up and slow down the video so it would match to the lip syncing. So you're seeing an altered video so it'll fit with the recording she made years earlier with Tommy Dorsey. I should mention that in each of these clips, we're gonna start with the dubber, we're gonna peel away that and reveal the actual voice.
In my imagination, I live the things I like to do. In my imagination, make believe is really true. In my imagination, I paint a scene of ecstasy. In my imagination, my hero sings these words to me. You are my lucky star. I saw you from afar. You open heaven's portal here on earth for this poor mortal. You are my lucky star.
So what did you think of Eleanor's voice? Should we have heard her?
Yes, I think
she was very natural.
Yes,
Yeah.
it suits her personality more.
Oh, much more.
I think she sounds great, and it's a much more appropriate voice. Now, the big scandal was that later in her career, it was leaked in the press that she was being dubbed. And it was big news that she had always been dubbed. And so her next film, she didn't sing at all. And then in the film after that, she was allowed to sing herself. It was a number called I Am the Captain of the Ship. And you can look it up on YouTube. And she actually, in one song, in one film, she was allowed to sing for herself. And then that was it. No more, because she retired after that. And there were no more films. So this is my attempt, Eleanor, to let people know that you could sing. And if Jimmy Stewart is allowed to sing with his own voice, you should have responded with yours, right?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Oh.
Showboat.
Showboat.
Now, this is not, of course, the original Showboat of 1936. This is the remake of 1951. And you know, Steve, what they did to the 36 Showboat when this was released in 51, right?
They pulled it.
Yeah.
You couldn't see it for years. It was a
For
James
years.
Whale. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're also, by the way, even that one wasn't the original Showboat. The original Showboat was filmed in 1929 without music. And then when they...
A silent musical. How nice.
Yeah.
It was a silent film, though, wasn't it?
It was, and then when the play debuted to such great success, they actually went back and did a lot of it in sound. A lot of that sound has been lost, but some of it has been rediscovered. And then they filmed a prologue where they had people from the Broadway cast actually performing numbers from the show.
My God,
So-
Ed Ferber made a fortune on these. Oh my God.
Yeah. So we do have Helen Morgan singing Bill at the time in the prologue, but the film itself is a non-musical. was based on the book, not on the musical. But the second version by James Whale, who did Frankenstein, is a great version. And then there's this one with Kathryn Grayson, Ava Gardner, and Howard Keel. Now, I do want to say one thing that I hear a lot on my channel, which is that people say that Lena Horne was originally cast for this,
Right.
and then Ava Gardner replaced her. And I want to put that to rest. That was never considered. Because so even though you could show a fictional mixed race person married to a white person on the screen, you could not show an actual mixed race person or a black person in a relationship with a white person on the screen. So MGM knew that. They knew that production code, if they released the film with Lena Horne, they would not have gotten the production code seal of approval, and virtually no theater could ever have played that movie. It would have been impossible. So there was no, Lena Horne did get to sing a lot of songs in Till the Clouds Roll By, the Jerome Kern biopic. So we do have her on film, but never considered for this. Instead, Ava Gardner got the role, and Ava Gardner worked her ass off to sing her songs herself. And do either of you know who her vocal coach was during that time?
Frank
Charles. Frank Sinatra, which is a great vocal coach. And Frank worked with her for months to get her prepared to sing. And she recorded the songs and she sang on set to her own voice. And then later, Annette Warren was brought in to replace her voice. So let me show you first Annette Warren and then Ava Gardner.
I used to dream that I would discover the perfect lover someday. I knew I'd recognize him if ever he came round my way. I always used to fancy then he'd be one of the godlike kind of men, with a giant brain and a noble head, like the heroes born in the books I've read. But along came Bill, an ordinary guy. He hasn't got a thing that I can brag about, and yet to be upon his knee, so comfy and roomy, feels natural to me. I can't explain. It's surely not his brain that makes me thrill. I love him because he's, I don't know, because he's just
This is exquisite.
What do we
No
think?
comparison. Unbelievable.
She's so much more. She's Annette Warren obviously is a technically a more proficient singer, but I think Ava Gardner is much more expressive.
Oh, definitely. Such heart. Oh my God.
And I actually don't like Annette Warren's vibrato. I think it's too fast. Normally, one of Ava's most popular dubbers that she worked with over the years was a woman named Eileen Wilson, who I actually tracked down a few years ago and found her alive living in Seattle and interviewed her and became friends with her. She's a great lady. And she said that Ava wanted her to come and dub her if she's going to be dubbed, but Eileen was currently starring in Your Hit Parade in New York, and they would not give her a week off to go and do this. So Ava got Annette instead. Ava never liked Annette. But here's the story. So they had both the tracks. They had film with both of them. And Arthur Freed would bring people in the studio and say, who do you like? And if they liked Ava, then Ava was in. And the next person, if they liked Annette, then Annette was in. So it was back and forth depending upon who had last had Arthur Freed's ear. And finally, they went with Annette because Arthur Freed likes professional singers, which Ava was not. But I think it's a crime. Now, the funny thing is that on the soundtrack album, it's Ava, because they couldn't credit her and not use her voice. So they would have had to credit Annette Warren on the soundtrack album. They didn't want to do that. So the LP has always had Ava's voice on it. But the film has always had Annette Warren's voice. So, and I got to tell you,
autobiography. She said, I kept making residuals for years. She said, I kind of got back at him a little bit.
She was really pissed, by the way, and I think deservedly so, because she said, I'm not a singer, but I can sing.
Yeah.
All right. So our next little gem here.
Oh God.
Eve, I know you have some comments on this, right?
Yeah. You know, you gotta hand it to her. She had just had a huge hit with Sudden Fear and gotten an Oscar nomination, and MGM had reopened their doors to her, and this is what they offered her, and she went in and grabbed it like a piranha. And she really worked really hard at it. And she had Charles Walters, who was a doll, and she loved him, but she wanted to sing, so she asked to come in, and now we get to you. She hadn't been on the MGM Live in the 40s since she left and went to Warner Brothers, so she was back home.
Right, back home with a big Technicolor musical.
Big.
And she wanted to sing herself. So in the end, she was dubbed by a famous dubber named India Adams. So we're going to start with India. We're going to go to Joan in a lower key. And this, I edited together from about 30 takes of Joan, 30 different takes. But some of the comments in between the takes are priceless. So I've left her comments in between takes in the middle. So you'll hear Joan singing, and you'll hear her commenting in between takes.
Morning, Charlie. Let's take it right here, full intro. Who's this character?
My name is Ty Grimm.
Where's Charlie?
He quit.
All right, so he has a hangover. When's he coming in?
He quit.
What do you mean he quit? We have a contract.
Oh, you still have it. It's in your dressing room on the floor in pieces.
What does this guy want? He gets $500 a week for working 4 hours a day.
Well, deducting taxes, ulcer treatments, and psychiatric sessions, his take-home pay was slightly under $10.
Get him back.
Is this Joan playing herself, Steve? What do you think?
I don't know. What do you think, Charles?
Follow me, and you'll have diamond starlight in your eyes. I'll take you places on a cloud of gold, and in your arms you'll hold a paradise. My smile will beckon you to follow me, and you will know the glow of ecstasy. You'll own the sun, the moon, the stars above, a world of love, if you will always follow me.
You better cut
cut it, because this is the part I'm really afraid of. If I could get the other first and then work on this later. Huh?
2541, take 2.
And stop laughing at me. Did I do Cloud Up badly again?
We got a good ending on it.
Oh,
2541, take 8.
Cloud Up was bad, huh? Do it again. Come on, I know. Do it again.
2544, take 6.
Damn it, get going. Just keep going on it till I get it. Don't even stop to talk to me. Just keep going.
2, 3.
Follow me. It will be ecstasy. You'll own the sun, the moon, the stars above, a world of love. If you will always follow me, if you will always, always follow me.
2544, take 7. Good.
I think that last sound you hear is her slamming her music stand because she's so frustrated. What did we think?
That's a tough one. You know, the plot does call for her to be a great musical comedy star. Yeah, I mean, she sounds okay, but that's a bit of a tough call. I think maybe they were right to. But it's too bad today. Of course, they could have done a mix and had somebody just dub in a couple key notes.
And actually, back then, they could have too. The editing techniques were good enough back then to cut in notes, but they just never did it. I mean, they just refused. Either you sang the whole thing yourself or you didn't sing it, even though they had the ability to cut notes in.
Who's next? Oh,
South Pacific, a movie in which almost everybody was dubbed. So
they done this when I did it in high school. They called our version North Pathetic.
So Rosanna Brazzi was dubbed. Stu Pot was dubbed.
Thank you.
John Kerr was dubbed. And shockingly, even Juanita Hall, who had performed this 900 times on Broadway, even she was dubbed, which I have always hated. Her dubber was Muriel Smith, who played Bloody Mary in the London production. And then I'm going to reveal Juanita's own voice. This is actually Juanita from the Broadway cast recording.
All day long, you and Leah played together. Make love, talk happy. No think about Philadelphia. It's no good.
Happy talk, keep talking happy talk. Talk about things you like to do. You got to have a dream. If you don't have a dream, how you gonna have a dream come true?
Talk about the moon floating in the sky, looking like a lily on a lake. Talk about the bird learning how to fly, making all the music he can make. Happy talk, keep talking, happy talk. Talk about things you like to do. You got to have a dream. If you don't have a dream, how you gonna have a dream come true? Talk about the girl saying to the boy, you and me is lucky to be us. Happy talk, keep talking, happy talk. Talk about things you like to do. You a dream. How you gonna have a dream come true if you don't talk happy and you never have dream? Then you'll never have a dream come true. It's a good idea? You like?
What do we think?
I get it. I mean, her real voice is so much more right for the character, and certainly for her. What possessed them not to use her?
You know, it's funny, Charles. I read Alfred Newman went to Richard Rodgers and said, she's great. She has worked so hard, and she sounds natural. She sounds real. Alfred Newman was the big guy at Fox putting this all together. And Richard Rodgers said, no, I never liked her version. I like this woman in London who played her in London, and that's what I want. And you couldn't argue with him.
No. Wow.
Joshua Logan, the director, also wanted to use her voice, and Richard Rodgers just overruled them. Because even though she'd worked very hard to get her voice back. Now, in the next Rodgers and Hammerstein film that she starred in,
Flower Drum Song.
Flower Drum Song, she sang for herself in that, but not in South Pacific.
That's a travesty.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a big mistake. And there was one other travesty in that film, right?
Yeah, that Stu Pot wasn't on a lot more. Ken Clark.
By the way, either of you know any idea who dubbed Stu Pot in that movie?
Marnie Nixon.
Thurl Ravenscroft, who sang "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch," and How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Oh, really? Oh, sure, that makes sense.
It's the
Because he has
same.
the face part. Right.
Are you fans of this, either of you?
Oh, I love this movie.
Lots of surprising things in here. One of the things I never knew is in the scene where he takes Gigi to show her off at the bar for the first time, all the people are actually lip syncing to a pre-recorded vocal track, which they did not use. So if you watch the film closely, you'll see they're all singing the same thing at the same time, but nothing's coming out of their mouths. So watch it again. I actually put that back too, but I never noticed it until somebody pointed it out to me.
Here's Gaston the Shy with his latest belle. She should keep him busy for a spell. Isn't she a dream? Isn't she a dear? Oh, if only dear Leon were here. There's Gaston the Shy. There's Gaston the Shy with the latest apple of his eye. Where could she be from? Do you know her name? She's a little young to play the game.
So here's the big story about this. They recorded all the tracks in Paris with a piano only. They filmed the movie to those tracks. When they came back to Hollywood, they put the orchestra underneath it. And one day on the set, Leslie was walking somewhere, and Louis Jourdan ran into her and said, Leslie, I'm so sad about your singing in the movie. She said, what do you mean? And he said, well, you didn't hear you're being dubbed. And she said, nobody told me. He said, yeah, you're being dubbed. So she stormed off to see Arthur Freed and sat down and said, Arthur, I can't believe you're dubbing me without telling me or without giving me a second chance to try again and make it better, because I really want to sing this. And Arthur Freed said, Leslie, give me a moment. And he walked out, and she sat there for 5, 10, 15 minutes. Finally, she went to his secretary and said, where is Arthur? And she said, oh, Arthur went home. So he just walked out because he couldn't confront her.
Fled the interview.
Terrible.
So, yeah, fled the interview. So here is Leslie. First, we have Betty Wand, who dubbed her. And then we have Leslie, and see what you think about this.
A necklace is love, a ring is love, a rock from some obnoxious little king is love. sapphire with a star is love. A napkin black cigar is love. Everything you are is love. You would think it would embarrass all the people here in Paris to be thinking every minute of love. I don't understand the Parisians making love every time they get a chance. I don't understand the Parisians wasting every lovely night on romance. Anytime and under every tree in town, they're in session 2 by 2. What a crime with all there is to see in town. They can't find something else to do. I don't understand how Parisians never tire of walking hand in hand. But they seem to love it and speak highly of it. I don't understand the Parisians.
What do you think?
Oh, I love her because it's her.
I have a feeling probably what happened was the fact that they have sort of talk singers in every role. There's not a single person in the movie who's got a legit voice.
Oh.
I thought that somebody's got to have a trained voice, and she'd be the natural. Because even Chevalier, it's a character voice. I bet you. I would imagine that was probably the thing. Because Leslie Carl must have. She did her own singing in her other musicals, right? Does she do any singing in? I can't remember it.
No, in American in Paris, she never sang. But my lovely story about Leslie is that after I replaced her voice, she was doing a book signing at Barnes & Noble a few years ago. And I waited until it was all over. And then I went up and I said, "Hi, Miss Perrone, I'm a big fan. And I've always regretted that you were dubbed in Gigi, and I know you did too. So I've actually restored your voice, and here's a DVD of your clips with your own voice on them."
How cool.
She was thrilled. She went, "Oh, thank you so much. This is so wonderful." So I let her see my work of her singing for herself. So, and I have another star that I'm hoping to do that with someday, and we'll meet him a little bit later. And here is our next masterpiece. Any thoughts on this?
Well, this is just a dubbing jamboree, this movie, with so many things going on, right? Isn't everybody dubbed at some point?
So, of course, Natalie Wood was dubbed. Richard Beymer, who played Tony, was dubbed. Even...
Iris?
No, but Russ Tamblyn was in the Jet song, not in Officer Krupke. And Rita Moreno was dubbed in A Boy Like That. It was too low for her to sing, but she was not dubbed in America. And when the new CD came out about 10 years ago, they actually credit Betty Wan in A Boy Like That. And they also credit Betty Wan in America, even though that was Rita's voice. So that was pretty offensive, right? This was Johnny Green who was in charge, and he dubbed. In fact, Russ Tamblyn in the Jet song is dubbed by Tucker Smith, who played Ice. So the guy who's dubbing him is actually in the scene that Russ is being dubbed in.
That's the movies, folks. That's the miracle of the movie. Wow.
So I'm going to show you Natalie Wood's own voice. And I got to tell you the story behind this. Natalie had it in her contract that she had to be allowed to pre-record her own tracks and film to them. So she pre-recorded. They did replace some sections with Marni Nixon, which she agreed to. And then she filmed to the track that you are about to hear, which is a blend of Natalie and Marni. At the bottom of the screen, you will see who is singing when. And they all were telling her, "Natalie, you sound fantastic. It's amazing. You're wonderful," just to placate her. And then, of course, as soon as filming is done, they bring Marni Nixon in, who now, after the fact, has to match Natalie's lip syncing, which was not perfect, and match her vocal quality and sing in a Puerto Rican accent that matches Natalie Wood's not very good Puerto Rican accent, right? All that after the fact. Natalie was furious. I want to make very clear that not a note of Natalie's recordings survive in the film. People think they do, but they don't. The film is entirely Marnie. So here we go. And by the way, this recording comes from Richard Bamer's practice record. Some friends were at his place going through his old stuff. They came upon a record that says Tonight, and they said, what is it? It's my practice record. And when they put it on, they found it was actually Natalie's voice, that he was the only person who had saved. This is a really beat up, scratchy record because he played it over and over again to practice, but it still is Natalie. It's the only remnant of her voice that exists.
Imagine being afraid of you.
You see?
I see you.
Oh, Maria, see only me.
The only thing I see forever, in my eyes, in my words, and in everything I do, nothing else but you, ever.
And there's nothing for me but Maria. Every sight that I see is Maria.
Only for me.
Always you, every thought I'll ever know. Everywhere I go, you'll be all the way, Maria and
me. Tonight, tonight, it all began tonight. I saw you and the world went away. Tonight, tonight, there's only you tonight. What you are, what to do, what to say.
Today, all day, I had the feeling a miracle would happen. I know now I was right.
For here you are, and what was just a word is a star.
With suns and moons all over the place. Tonight, tonight, the world is wild and bright, going mad, shooting sparks into space. Today, the world was just an address, a place for me to live in, no better than all right.
But here you are, and
What was just a word is a star. Tonight, tonight, I'll see my love tonight, and for us stars will stop where they are.
the minutes seem like hours, the hours go so slowly, and still the sky is light. Oh, moon, grow bright, and make this endless day endless night.
Can you imagine if they had used those tracks? What would have happened?
Well, I don't know. I kind of think that that score had to be kind of perfect, don't you think?
Yep.
I don't think there was any way, it would have been a laughing stock. It's not like some singers who just couldn't sustain a note. She's actually missing some jumps pretty badly, especially in that window. So, yeah.
Nitpicky.
So we're going to come back to Natalie later because she really wanted to sing really badly. And she tried over and over and over again. In fact, her next film, the next musical, which was Gypsy, it was in her contract that she sing for herself, and either they use her voice or they cut the number. And one number had to be cut because she was so bad, and that's Together Wherever We Go.
Oh, is that why?
Was cut from the film. It was all filmed. I have the film. It's on my channel. And the reason was they had lowered the key for Rosalind Russell so much that Natalie had to sing it an octave higher, which she couldn't do. So she basically screams throughout the entire number. So that was cut. But everything else, in spite of what everybody else says, in Gypsy, that's Natalie's own voice, including Little Lamb. That's her own voice in that film. And she did okay, you know?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's a very maligned film. I think it's just wonderful. And you know, I remember seeing it when it first came out at Radio City Music Hall, 1962. I guess I was about 8 years old, and it's just so, the images from the movie are so imprinted in my head. And I think Rosalind Russell gives a wonderful acting performance. And it's a little, we'll talk more about the singing issues. But I guess the heartbreaking thing is that in 1962, it really should have been Judy Garland. And I read in Robert Wagner's, one of his memoirs, that he and Natalie Wood had lunch with Jack Warner about her being in Gypsy, and Robert Wagner said, well, of course you should have Judy Garland as the mother. And Jack Warner just hit the roof and said she'll never work at the studio again because of all the problems they had on A Star Is Born, which was only 8 years before. That's really a pity because she was extraordinary in that part. And I think she might have actually then won that Oscar that so eluded her.
Yeah.
Yeah, Judy would have been amazing. I also have heard the entire recording of Ethel Merman's last performance of Gypsy on Broadway. And I think Ethel could have easily done it too. And in fact, Warner promised it to Merman on numerous occasions. But Rosalind Russell's husband was a hard negotiator, and he got it for her. It was originally to be done as a non-musical. They were cutting all the songs. And then all the buzz was going on about West Side Story, and they put the songs back in. And Rosalind wanted to sing it herself because she had sung on Broadway in Wonderful Town and in a film called The Girl Rush. She sings quite well 6 years earlier, but she was going to sing it herself. And she did record everything and film to her own voice. So in the film, Mr. Goldstone is Rosalind herself, actually singing live on set. And she's great, right? I mean, in that number. The first half of Rose's Turn is Rosalind herself. And then after that, she's dubbed. So the original dubber was to be Eileen Wilson, my friend. But Eileen Wilson's voice was just obviously not Rosalind Russell, just like you thought, Charles, in your film, right? And so Rosalind said, you can't use her. You have to get somebody else. And they called Lisa Kirk, who was on a ship to Europe, and said, turn around and come back. You're dubbing Rosalind Russell. They had lowered all the keys about 4 steps for Rosalind. Lisa had to sing in Roz's key, which actually helped her match Rosalind's voice really well. Yeah. So here is some people. First, we're going to hear Lisa Kirk, and then we're going to hear Rosalind's attempt to do this. So,
anybody that stays home is dead. If I die, it won't be from sitting. It'll be from fighting to get up and get out.
Some people can get a thrill
knitting sweaters and sitting still. That's okay for some people who don't know they're alive. Some people can thrive and bloom, living life in a living room. That's perfect for some people of 105. But I at least gotta try. When I think of all the sights that I gotta see, yet all the places I gotta play, all the things that I gotta be, yet come on, Papa, what do you say? Some people can be content, playing bingo and paying rent. That's PT for some people, for some humdrum people to be. But some people ain't me. I had a dream, a wonderful dream, Papa. All about tuning the Orpheum circuit. Give me a chance and I know I can work it. I had a dream, just as real as can be, Papa. There I was in Mr. Orpheum's office, and he was saying to me, Rose, get yourself some new orchestrations, new routines, and red velvet curtains. Get a feathered hat for the baby, photographs in front of the theater. Get an agent and a jig time. Your baby and booked in the big time. Oh, what a dream, a wonderful dream, Papa. And all that I need is 88 bucks, Papa. That's what he said, Papa. Only 88 bucks.
You ain't getting 8 cents for me, Rose.
Well, I'll get it someplace else then, but I'll get it and I'll get my kids out. Goodbye to Blueberry.
Well,
What happened?
well.
I think they're wonderful.
So she's actually on all the jumps. She's not flatting, she's sharping. She's so concerned about being flat that she actually over compensates and sharps. So what they couldn't do back then, but what we can do now, is I actually extracted her voice and I auto-tuned it and I corrected it so we can correct the pitch and get her back to where she should have been. So maybe I'll release a copy of the film with this, with Rosalind auto-corrected.
Well, I'll get it someplace else then, but I'll get it and I'll get my kids out. Goodbye to Blueberry Pie. Good riddance to all the socials I had to go to, all the lodges I had to play, all the Shriners I said hello to. Hey, LA, I'm coming your way. Some people sit on their butts, got the dream, yeah, but not the guts. That's living for some people, for some humdrum people, I suppose. Well, they can stay and rot. But not wrong.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah, so it's great that we can correct that now, right?
Yeah.
Such a pity that, I mean, if the technology had been available, I mean, she absolutely could, I think, could have done her own singing in that movie.
Yeah, I love her in this. I love Roz.
Yeah.
I'm with Charles. I grew up with this version, so I've always had a very big soft spot for this version.
So our next film is the one that really blew the lid off of movie dubbing.
My Fair Lady.
Yeah, this is where it leaked that Audrey was being dubbed, and it probably cost her the Oscar. Do we agree? All the publicity about her being dubbed.
or nomination. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think so, Charles. I agree with you. A nomination at least.
Yeah, but she wasn't even nominated.
No.
Probably because of the dubbing stuff. She does sing Just You Wait almost entirely herself. The middle section is dubbed by Marnie. Everything else is Marnie. I'll tell one quick story. She worked very hard on this to try to sing it herself. She recorded everything herself. And finally, when George Cukor was given the task to tell her that her voice was being replaced, she looked at him, she said, "Oh," and she walked off set. She left the filming that day, and the next day she came back and she apologized for her wicked behavior. So that's how polite Audrey was. She was not happy that she was dubbed. So we're going to start with Audrey this time. We're going to hear Marnie in the middle and then go back to Audrey. And this is actually a rehearsal recording. It's not actually her final recording, which might have been better, but here is Audrey Hepburn attempting to sing.
Eliza, I don't care what Mr. Higgins says, you must put down your books and go to bed.
Bed, I couldn't go to bed. My head's too light to try to set it down. Sleep, I couldn't sleep tonight. Not for the jewels in the crown. I could have danced all night. I could have danced all night and still have begged for more. I could have spread my wings and done 1,000 things I've never done before. I'll never know what made it so exciting. Why all at once my heart took flight. I only know when he began to dance with me. I could have danced all night. I could have danced all night. I could have danced all night and still have begged for more. I could have spread my wings and done 1,000 things I've never done before. I'll never know what made it so exciting. Why all at once my heart took flight. I only know when he began to dance with me. I could have danced. Oh, I just shook too much to do that. I just waved it all.
Every take of hers had that at the end of it saying, "Oh God, I was wrong, I could do better." But the one thing they didn't do, which would have allowed her to sing more of the songs, is they never lowered the keys.
Yeah.
She's not a soprano, she's an alto. And if they ever had intended on using her, they would have did what they did for Roz. They would have lowered the keys, right? Never did that. And obviously she couldn't do that, right?
It's really too bad. You know, I love her singing in, you know, Moon River or in Funny Face. I just love the delicate voice, the crack in it. I mean, I understand that with this, My Fair Lady, you know, Lerner and Lowe wanted to have their score sung at its in a perfect way and have a lyric soprano. I get it, but it is too bad, because I think if they had not been so rigid and just allowed Audrey Hepburn to sing it in her alto range and in her more conversational way, that she does in Funny Face, it could have been very beautiful.
And of course, the irony is that she ended up losing the Oscar to Julie Andrews, who wasn't allowed to do it, and she lost. So it was Rex Harrison and Julie Andrews at the Oscars anyway that year. It's one of those bizarre things that happens, you know.
And let me just quickly show you a clip of Julie accepting the award at the Golden Globes and see what we think of this.
Thank you very much for this lovely honor. It's a wonderful memento of a very, very happy time. Finally, my thanks to a man who made a wonderful movie and who made all this possible in the first place, Mr. Jack Warner.
More Natalie Wood. Have both of you seen this?
Yes, I just watched it again the other night.
Oh yeah, so it's a bit frustrating because I'm a huge fan of the original novel by Gavin Lampert, and the book is basically a comic novel, and it's set in the 50s, and it's very much about the end of the studio system. But I guess in 1965, when the movie was made, the 50s was too recent, so they made it sort of quasi 1930s, and it's all very eerie and underpopulated. There are no extras, at the studio. And
it's very dark, with Christopher Plummer kind of lurking in the background all the time, just staring at her.
It's the book. The movie is only the first half of the book. The second half of the book, she goes to New York and lives in Greenwich Village and starts this whole new life. And it's just fantastic. I really urge anyone to find it on eBay and read the novel.
And it's odd that it didn't turn out to be better than it was, considering who was behind it. Mulligan was a wonderful director, Alan Pakula. It had really great people behind it, and Andre Previn. And I love that song. This song you're going to hear from me is the most Judy Garland type song that she didn't sing. It's just an amazing song,
Yeah, I think Judy never sang it, right?
I like all this. I like the circus number too.
Yeah. So both of those are on my channel with Natalie's own voice. Here, we're going to hear a blend once again of Natalie and Jackie Ward, who matches her precisely. Perfectly. And it's fun to hear in this. It's Natalie not being able to sing, and then Natalie suddenly being able to sing. It's like she suddenly is able to sing, and then she can't sing again, and then she can sing. It's very weird, but the match is phenomenal. So here is Natalie and Jackie Ward singing this very Judy Garlandish song.
Move over, stars, and give me some sky. I've got me some wings I'm eager to try. I may be unknown, but wait till I've flown. You're gonna hear from me. Toss me the moon, 'cause I've gotta shine. I'm climbing a cloud and calling it mine. You'll pardon my haste, I've no time to waste. You're gonna hear from me. Heaven smiles from the blue above me. I'm heaven's child. Listen, world, you're gonna love me. I'm on my way, 'cause I've got it made. Raise up my flag, begin my parade. Then watch the world over, start coming up clover. That's how it's gonna be, you'll see. You're gonna hear from me. Listen, world, you're gonna love me. I'm on my way, 'cause I've got it made. Raise up my flag, begin my parade.
comet's on fire. You're gonna hear from me.
In the movie, is it all Jackie Ward?
Yeah, well, in the movie, when she does her screen test sitting on the stoop, the first few lines, everyone tells me to know my place. That ain't the way I play. That's her, Natalie. And then the rest of the song is Jackie Ward. And in this, it's all Jackie Ward. And Jackie Ward tells a story about recording these numbers with the orchestra. And she does her first take, and the entire orchestra breaks into applause, which never happens in a recording session like that, right? And she turns to the music director and she says, "Why are they all applauding?" And he said, "Because they've just been sitting for 4 hours with Natalie Wood trying to sing this song, and they're just so relieved to hear it sung well that they're applauding you." So, and once again, they were telling Natalie how wonderful she was and how great she was, and then they replaced her entirely. Robert Blake once was quoted as saying, Natalie wanted to sing more than she wanted to breathe. We're going to have an example now of her last attempt to sing, where she actually pretty much got very close to being, I just discovered this recently, it's buried on the recently released CD, not even credited as Natalie, it's just alternate vocal with guitar. And we realized it was Natalie, and I put it back in. So here she is in The Great Race, singing actually pretty well in a track that could have been used with a little bit of tweaking.
They say there's a tree in the forest, a tree that will give you a sign. Come along with me to the sweetheart tree. Come and carve your name next to mine. They say if you kiss the right sweetheart, the one you've been waiting for, big blossoms of white will burst into sight, and your love will be true evermore.
That is as valid as Audrey Hepburn singing Moon River. That is lovely. She sang that beautifully.
Yeah, it sounded like it was a big musical. I mean,
No, exactly.
why don't they just give it to her and do their best to fix it up?
Yeah.
Why not throw her a bone, right? I mean, you know how
Right.
badly she wanted it. She's very close. I actually went through and I replaced 9 of her notes with Jackie Ward's, just with a very simple edit, which they could have easily done. The match is so good that you can never hear the change. And they could have done that, right? Just
Charles,
fix
don't
it.
you wonder how many notes of us he's going to replace with Jackie Ward before this interview is over with?
Is she still singing? What's her email address?
Yes, I'm going to redub all of you.
All of it.
Yeah.
But that to me is just cruel. I mean, they could have given her that. She did it fine. When I first heard it, I couldn't even believe it was her because it sounded so good, right? But
She's
now
lovely.
you can tell.
Lovely.
It's clearly her voice.
In the late 60s, there was that whole sort of Claudine Longet kind of non-singer who were having, hit records.
Yeah. I mean, they let Vanessa Redgrave sing in Camelot and Richard Harris, and they both were good, but not perfect. So I don't know. I think they were just cool. Maybe Henry Mancini, who wrote that song, really wanted a great singer so it would become a hit, which of course it didn't. So sorry, Natalie, but I've given you your place. You're online now with thousands of views, so people are seeing your voice. Okay, Sound of Music. Christopher Plummer tried to record his own, worked very hard, and claims to this day that only the long notes were replaced by Bill Lee. The reality is the entire song was replaced by Bill Lee. But Chris is still alive, of course. I'm hoping someday to find him at a book signing somewhere and give him a copy of this. Collector had this, somebody who worked at Fox. It took me a year of begging and pleading and pleased, and he finally gave it to me. So we're going to start with Bill Lee. You'll see how close the match is, and then you'll hear Chris Plummer singing this for himself, okay?
Why didn't you tell me?
What?
To bring along my harmonica.
Edelweiss, every morning you greet me, small and white, clean and bright, you look happy to me, blossom of snow, may you bloom and grow forever. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, bless my homeland
Everybody's favorite Liv Ullmann musical, right? This is the film.
I love this movie.
Do you really?
That horrible.
I went around talking like Bobby Van for weeks. Question me and then sir, bright and clear.
Very well cast.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing cast. Peter Finch was dubbed. Liv Ullmann was dubbed. Olivia Hussey was dubbed. Peter Finch apparently did try to record a song for himself. So here is Peter Finch attempting to sing for himself.
I come to you with all my dreams, and I bring you love. I come to you. There were times my faith in life was gone, still I continued on. Those endless days turned into years, they were lonely years in many ways. And deep inside, I'm sure I always knew I had to wait for you. And here you are, my own true love, I come to you.
I'm amazed that someone like that, like him, would even attempt that, right? I mean, why do you think he wanted to do that when it's so obvious he's a horrible
He had
singer?
a good time. He had evidently, from what I've read, he really enjoyed filming this movie. It was a very something different than he'd ever done, and he really enjoyed it.
I guess he might have thought, well, Rex Harrison did it.
Yeah.
But our final clip is, of course, from all of our favorite movie, right?
Oh, gosh.
So, and it's from this scene, which is legendary, not only for the song, but also
for her necklace.
Patty's necklace.
That necklace.
And it's wonderful that was completely by chance. That just happened, and it's been loved ever since. I saw Patty Duke here in an interview acknowledging that she was dubbed, but she did record an album after this in which she sang the greatest hits from Valley of the Dolls, and so I put her voice back. Now, once again, she's supposed to be playing who in this movie?
Judy Garland.
Judy Garland. So obviously you needed somebody who can sing, right? So we'll see if Patty Duke can sing as well as Judy Garland.
I think you're going to love our next performer. Let's have a nice cordial reception, if you will. Lovely Neely O'Hara. Everybody, let's hear it out there.
Thank you very much.
It's impossible to tell you right now. If I tried it, I'd never know how. Gee, luck ain't for me. Far as I know, far as I see, I'm no winner, boy. I'd make a mess, baby, unless you say so.
It's impossible, it's not my style. If I tried it, I'd miss by a mile. I'm not worth a dime, ain't got the stuff, ain't got the time. I'm a loser, I ain't for success, baby, unless you say so. If you say I can do,
You're right, it is an exciting business.
things, even though this rough world is a tough world. Well, if you say go to it, baby, I'll do it. Could be possible, how would I know? So I'll try it and give it a go. Hey, could be the day, baby, when I turn out okay like a winner. But luck won't say yes, baby, unless you say so too. If you say go to it, I'll do it. I'll do it for you.
Well,
Not a horrible job.
It's
but
amazing.
This is one of those times when I think that the dubbers sounded more like Patty Duke than Patty Duke.
Right.
I do. I think the girl that this this woman, she sounds so much like Patty Duke. It's just astonishing.
Yeah. So for the last thing, I thought it would be fun to take a little peek back behind the process. So even Judy Garland, who was a master, right? Actually, songs were cut together from multiple takes. So here is Judy Garland in one of her greatest films. She's in a booth like this, all by herself. And be aware that she is just in this little tiny dark booth, and how she is exuding as though she's on a stage in front of 5,000 people, right? It's amazing how she's able to turn that on. So here's Judy in the recording booth.
Every cloud must have a silver lining. Oh, hell. Well, where do I breathe, for Christ's sake, in this goddamn thing? And don't read this back. Afterlife. You can't. You have to breathe somewhere before. All right.
You're wondering, child, we'll see you on the land to this one shore. You're one. That's all. Try it again.
You got a broom in there?
My goodness. Here we go. Mammy, haven't done it, my dear old mammy. Your wandering child will wander no more when I get to that Swanee shore.
Before I show the final scene, I just want to say that how amazing it is how everything you hear here is false. Judy is singing in a booth, cut together from multiple takes. The orchestra is patched in. All the chorus is put in later. All the taps and the cane taps are actually recorded after the fact and then put in later. So the soundtrack you're hearing is a complete artifice, and yet it's just an amazing number.
How I love you, my dear
God, that's brilliant. Brilliant. And thank you. Thank you for all of these. Your expertise and this journey into dubbing has been wonderful.
Fascinating, really. And I just urge everybody to go visit your YouTube channel. There's just so many just jewels to cover.
I'll put a link up at the end of the video. Thank both of you for being here. It was great.
Loads of fun. Loads of fun. Thank you for inviting us. Great.
All right, everybody. And Charles, I hear you're working on a new movie. You want to plug it?
Oh well, listen, it won't be out for another year or so, But we start shooting it very shortly. My first film in over 12 years.
12 years. Is there a title yet?
It's called The Sixth Reel.
The Sixth Reel. Okay, well.
Madcap contemporary caper comedy.
Thanks, both of you. Have a great time, and I'll see you soon. All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.